Google and Gmail are rolling out a really interesting new AI integration into currently it's Android, but they'll be adding it to iOS devices soon. So on Gmail, you're going to be able to use their AI Gemini chat to talk about your emails. I think there's a bunch of really interesting use cases, and I think that this is going to become an interesting feature. I tried to test this and I was unsuccessful, which I also think shows me a couple drawbacks of the overall technology. So Google put out a blog post, which was, I believe, on Blogger. I didn't know that that was still a thing, but apparently Blogger is still alive and kicking. It looks very much like it did 15 years ago. They put out a blog post talking about some of the new features that they have. It's kind of interesting because it's like a very, I don't know, like ugly style kind of post, not like a big fancy marketing thing. So I don't know, maybe that's good, maybe that's bad. In any case, what is actually happening? You're going to have a new like Spark icon, their Google Gemini icon that shows up in your Gmail. You'll be able to click on it and it's going to have a bunch of options for you. It's going to have a little pop-up that says, show unread emails from today, or show unread emails from this week, or get the status of my recent orders. You can say any of that kind of stuff. So you prompt it and it's like you're chatting with it. And it essentially is taking in all the data and everything that's in all of your emails, and you can ask it questions about them, which is interesting. I think it's going to be really useful. I've heard some people say it's creepy, like they don't know that Google already does this essentially to serve you ads. So they already read all your emails, know everything inside of them. But now they're definitely doing it to answer your AI questions. I think that this is actually like going to be very useful, whether people think it's creepy or annoying or whatever. Like the use of it is definitely there, and so because of that, I think it's going to have some solid adoption. So they have added all of this, which I think is going to be interesting because it also works with grabbing information from your emails and stuff that's in your inbox or from your Google Drive files, which I think is also very interesting because, Google Drive is like sort of just tied to Gmail. Sometimes when you get an email, things show up in one or the other. And anyways, all between searching in Google Drive and Gmail, I guess would be very, very useful. So examples of things that you can actually ask Gemini for. They have like an overall Gemini one and they have one per specific email. But in any case, you could ask it questions like, what's the PO number for my agency, or how much did the company spend on the last marketing event? Or you can say, catch me up on emails about quarterly planning. Whatever it is, it will, be able to spit you out information. I already know what people are concerned about, the drawback. A couple things. Number one is if you said something like, catch me up on the emails about quarterly planning, and it's like, okay, here's what's happening in quarterly planning. And it like gives you a little list and you read it. How, like, to be 100% honest, how much would you trust yourself to just be like, okay, yeah, cool, that sounds great, and then just like move on with your day, versus like go and read the actual email to make sure it didn't miss some like really critical important thing that's gonna screw you over in the future because you missed out on I don't know, some important little nugget in there. So that's what I would be most concerned about. I'm sure that this is going to get good and I'm sure it's going to work and you'll be able to trust it eventually. I don't know if I mean yeah, I mean, I probably just wouldn't trust it because of my habits right off at the beginning. Maybe I'll grow to trust it more if like I ask that question 5 times, then I go read the email, and 5 times out of 5 it gave me the perfect response, gave me all the relevant information. Then maybe I'd trust it. But I don't know. I'd always be just sort of worried about asking it for stuff just from other things I've seen with AI hallucinating in the past. You don't want to miss something important, but I think that's an interesting thing. There's some other very interesting use cases, and I actually tried this out myself, so I want to tell you about that. But before I do, one of the most important things I think anyone can do to really elevate your personal brand or to promote your business is to start a podcast. Obviously, I'm biased because I'm talking to you from a podcast right now, and I've been podcasting for 5 years, so this is something I love. But I really have been able to raise hundreds of thousands of dollars, get thousands of customers, and get millions of downloads on this podcast, on my podcast content that I create around AI and AI news. And I really believe that this is something that can scale to any industry. I've personally tested this with multiple industries, and I've consulted people in tons of different industries that have all been able to replicate this. I get questions all the time on how to start a podcast, different software to use, different tools, just all the ins and outs. And I decided finally to make a podcast course that I highly recommend you take. The link is in the description. Usually it's $300. I have a 50% off discount this week if you are willing to write me a testimonial. there's a 50% off discount. And you can get the coupon code AI chat, get it for $150. And then if you love it, just make sure to leave me a testimonial, shoot me on LinkedIn or something. This is something that I think is really, really phenomenal. And if you're interested in starting a podcast, which I think everyone should be, this is something I highly recommend to avoid making the 5 years of mistakes that I made. Save yourself thousands of dollars and just immediately get a podcast that's going to start growing fast and do well. So check that out. Link in the description. The other things I want to talk about with this Google Gemini with inside the Gmail, I actually decided to go try this out. They, in their announcement, they said this is just rolling out to Gmail right now, as of today or as of yesterday, and it's going to be added to iOS in the near future. I don't know, I just wanted to test it out, so I went over to my iPhone iOS, and sure enough, in my Gmail app, they don't have the little spark icon next to the search bar that I'm seeing in a lot of these screenshots. But if I click on a specific email, there is the spark on specific emails. So if I click on that, it's Gemini, it pulls it up, and it says, it has a bunch of suggested buttons to click, summarize this email, suggest a reply, list the next steps. So I clicked on summarize this email, and right below that, it popped up a thing that said, you no longer have access to Gemini. What's interesting here as I'm reading this and reading their blog post that they just put out about all of this, I thought, okay, maybe this is just something that they're rolling out to their Google Workspace. So that was my personal email where I did that little experiment. So I switched my email over to my Workspace, which is my email, my business email from AI Box, and we pay for Google Workspace and whatnot. And that one didn't actually show this anywhere. So I thought that was interesting. It didn't even show it on individual emails like I'm seeing on my personal. And I'm realizing perhaps what happened was I enrolled my personal email in like Google's beta Gemini stuff. So I would get like, before it was rolled out to everyone, I was getting like AI snippets in my like Google search results and stuff like that. And so I'm wondering if this Gemini Spark thing on my emails is like a remnant from that, but it still feels real, I don't know, kind of scammy, real, I don't know, not great to have a button that you can click on. It suggests prompts to give it, and when you ask it the prompt, it says you no longer have access to Gemini. So I don't know if this is a bug or this is an accident or kind of what the deal with it is, but it definitely feels like not a good move. Maybe this is how they want you to upgrade to Gemini to tell you need to upgrade, but there's no button after that says you don't have access, upgrade here. It just like straight up doesn't work. So it's just like a button that's broken that doesn't do anything. So I'm sure this is going to be useful. They're just having a bit of a rocky rollout. Whatever. Maybe it's just because they're trying to go fast. And if that's the case, then I salute them, because Google notoriously is not very fast at rolling out some of these AI features. So anyways, I'm hoping that this thing gets rolled out soon, because I really do think this is going to be very useful. I personally, on my email all the time, I have like certain documents I've emailed myself, and every time I like need that document, I should like go into my Gmail and like to try to remember the conversation or like the place that a certain tax document or thing came from, and try to search in their search bar to go find who it was. And I definitely think that there's a ton of room for this to just be an AI model. The other area that I think that this like just reminds me of a lot that really needs some disruption in this kind of search is I know this is slightly unrelated, but it is in banking. Some of my banks and credit cards, I think Capital One's great. Chase Bank is the worst when it comes to searching through your transactions. I don't know if anyone's experienced this, so shout out to anyone at Chase Bank. I beg of you to implement a better search function, and preferably an AI just like Google Gemini is doing inside of Gmail, where essentially it knows your transactions and you're like, how much did I spend on like food and restaurants in like February this year? Like, it'd be great to just be able to ask that and it to be able to go and pull that kind of stuff up. There's like budgeting apps, and you can like automatically say like where your expenses are coming from, the categorizing, do categorization of all of that. That's just so annoying. I don't want to have to do that. And also Chase Bank is the worst, because when you want to look up a transaction, it doesn't even show you like a list of all your transactions all the time. Sometimes it's like, especially their credit card. Oh yeah, I think their credit card's the worst. The credit card doesn't even show you a list of all the transactions. It just like says like, what date would you like to see the transactions for? I don't know. It just does ridiculous things like that. I think there's a lot of industries that are ripe for disruption. Email definitely, though, I think is big, because they kind of had a search, but it was pretty hard to find what you're looking for all the time. And since we already know this isn't a privacy thing, we already know they're scanning through all your emails, try to serve you ads. So if they're doing that, they might as well also be able to just at least make it useful for you and be able to search for and serve you up interesting insights from stuff inside of your email. Now, my question would be, and I already know the answer, but just an interesting concept is, if I was to go and, let's say do a search about an email and it pulled me up information from it, would it mark the email as read? My assumption is no, it's not going to mark the email as read. So you got to go do that yourself, which in that case, to make everything look like it was read, I'm sure people are going to go through and just click through all their emails. So even if they give you a summary, you're probably still going to click on it. Does it save you time? I don't know, maybe. In any case, it definitely makes finding things easier. I'll keep you up to date on anything else new and interesting that drops in some of these new Gemini and Gmail updates. Now, this is currently only on Android. Hopefully, iOS gets this soon. And they fix that little bug I found. In any case, thanks so much for tuning into the podcast. If you are interested in starting your own podcast just like this and getting 4 million downloads, check out the link in the description to my podcast course. I hope to see you there, and I hope you all have an amazing rest of your day.